Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Water, drink water. Okay. So. Oh, yeah, this is worth covering. So that recommends that result. Ah, okay. There you go. Okay, so today is Discord things. Some people do still. My apologies. There we go. Water, drink water. I want to sneeze again, that's why I'm kind of quiet for a second. Oh, sulky puppies. Okay. Water, drink water. That's what we're doing. Today I have a PR to review. Rambling Geek kindly made a PR. Also, we have to review some of these issues, and we have to finish this story up on getting the consumption, the goal, the progress goal out. So last week we were working on. Mal, good morning. You are the first today. How's it going? So what we decided last week was that if we store a user preference of time zone, so we'll have to create a ticket for tracking the user time zone. Then good to hear it. So what we can do is we can use this time provider. So given the time zone offset, we can always know the logs for the current day. And data requested for current day returns log. So what was I doing here? So I tracked the time provider. I set the time provider to day 8, month 7, right? So I give it a time as what is UTC now. So this basically says that UTC now is 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. on the no, it's 5 past midnight on the 8th of February, right? And when I add it, I say, okay, get the date time, because the log would get added in that date time. And if I say get log with my time zone, I should still get that log, because my time zone, if I go in here, my time zone would be offset, right? So my time zone here will give me the right. Yeah. So I'm adding it with the UTC, which will give me this. And then when I go my time zone, I still get that record back because I'm adding it in my time zone, right? To be more thorough on the testing here, I need to add records either side and verify they don't come back in. I need to add one genuinely on the 8th after several hours. So this test doesn't really describe that. All right. So, because we're not requesting current day, right? We are saying this method is wrong. That's why. So this is really get logs for today, right? And time zone offset difference. So this is kind of data related, which is the difficulty I'm having in organizing these test names, is because it very much is focused on the data, but it is really this method, this data method, that I'm actually after. So I'm trying to figure out how to best describe it. When user time zone not in UTC and logs for today requested, only logs for current user day returned. So it's wordy, but I think it can be worked upon. I'm trying to get the point across rather than worrying about the succinctness of the actual test name. Delta, good morning. How are you doing? So I need to add a few more records in here to make this useful. Does this have a context? Add range, it does, yes. Add range. Move that in there. So to really test this, I need to add data either side and verify. I'm going to try and code up some Spotify Alexa playlist stuff eventually. You're lacking motivation or just... Yeah. Okay. Oh, you got to find something you actually you care about as well. Actually, let's do ID equals... I can only do to do that so much. Yeah. When you hit that point of you're not inspired or not energized by something, it can definitely. Yeah. Normally that happens for me when when it just seems like too much, and I've taken out and I've bitten off more than I can chew, and I don't have that motivation, or there's nothing inspiring about what you're doing. Yeah, it shouldn't feel like work. So let's control this a little bit. Int expected consumption ID equals 1004. So we're going to do this one. Part of it is I'm less hungry than I used to be. Okay. Now is that because you've got a full-time job doing it and you're just not as inspired by it, or you're not doing anything interesting at work? Constantly being fired with low wages and being fired will not make you threatened with being threatened will make you work hard. Yeah. Depending on what position, what can, yeah, I get it. Nothing like a big stick to inspire motivation, right? So let's do ID equals. So I'm going to keep these IDs out of the range now. So they're going to still be from my user ID. So int user ID equals 1009. Those have been canned and low wages, I meant. Okay. Yeah. User ID. So we'll make sure that clearly all for the same user ID. We're not making up random data on everything. And fluid ounces equals 100 consumed on. So this is going to get the time provider, and it's going to get the UTC now dot add days. I gave 1, so that's from yesterday. Dot date time. It just adds, yeah, it's got a params array. So we got 1 before, and now we need to do 1 afterwards. So we'll mimic the same pattern. So that adds a day, and that subtracts a day, and now we should only still get back 1, right? So just having 1 record in there and getting 1 back doesn't necessarily mean, right? It should mean. So let's do that. Where am I failing? Failing there. Collection did not match it, contain any matching elements. Okay, so where did it break? Get logs for today. So now is 7th. Okay. We get 0 back. So I should be controlling this, right? So UTC now is the 8th at midnight. Yeah, there you go. It captures UTC now. the time provider, so it knows what UTC now is. So why didn't that work? So that should have taken now, and that should give me a record either side. So for the same user ID, we change the offset to now. We're just comparing date. Rised, welcome. Hope you're well. Thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. So I kind of want to get this test done, and then I can go to the PR that we've got to review. So, so for anyone new to the stream, Water Drink Water is a project aimed at being friendly for all manner of different reasons. It's a project with a purpose. It is a simple project where the goal is to track water consumption through the day, see your progress, and also be able to track progress with other people. Along the way, we can learn some things around authentication and architecture and all those sorts of things, but we don't have to do them straight away. But we maintain the context throughout the stream. We can track issues against this, and people can pick up simple issues or more difficult issues, or even log new issues. And Rambling Geek over the weekend actually did a PR adding some information on how to get started. So he went through on stream on Friday night, going through actually getting the code checked out and trying to build it and run it, and had some feedback on the getting started. So he's added some README stuff in there and added a sample HTTP request. So that was nice. So you can find that going to there. So this is where the repository is stored. So right now what I'm working on is writing a unit test. Unit testing is something that I'm adding just to make sure that I can back this up. It isn't something that I'm expecting everyone to be comfortable with doing at this point, so it's not necessarily mandatory in the project. So it's just more as we need it, I'll add it in. I can use it as a lesson. So what I'm learning here is that apparently I'm not catching something. So this test was passing when I had one record, but now there's multiple records. So what is this doing? So you should get where the user ID is this, and the consumed on hours. We offset the time zone. All right. So again, we agreed last week that we would we'd pass in. We actually could make that even a different data type. That's another thing entirely. And we can offset the time zone so we can get just the water consumption for the day we actually asked for. So the current user's day, make sure I'm saying that correctly. So when we ask for this, we're saying get logs for today, and our time zone offset is -5. Right? There we go. That's why. That's why we're getting nothing back, because I changed the variable and didn't change the thing. So I expect this to work. There we go. I changed the variable and changed the number. I didn't change the call. So it's doing the right thing. Hi, Jonas. How you doing? Well, I'm a beginner. Well, hello. So this is a little bit more beyond standard beginner stuff here, but this is just so that we have this backup later on, so we know what we're doing and we can help document the system. Unit testing is something that I don't want to necessarily make a strong component of the project. I think that's a little bit more advanced, but it does give us a point at which to bring in people who are wondering about unit testing, how we might go about that, and add it in. So I think that is working now. Let's change here. Change that. Change the name. Change the name, that's why we changed. Change that. Okay, yeah. Make method, get logs for today. So this project is, it is available. If you are interested in the project at all, if you want to know more, please feel free to ask questions. The stream is not about me getting stuff done on this project. It's more about me being able to talk about the project, add features as we need, and also be able to kind of move the project forward. I think that when you're learning something, it's very useful to have something to focus on, to have context of. So that's why I'm trying to do this on the stream. So 2 days a week, I focus on doing this, and then the remainder of the week, I work on my other project, which is a little bit more advanced. But the goal is, if you have questions, if you want to if you want to contribute to the project, you're more than welcome to. If you just want to check out the project and go and tinker with it on your own, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to criticize the project, or you have thoughts on what we're doing, feel free. I'm open to all discussion on this. So is there make method get logs for today, verified unit test, date time offset, commit and push so that everyone has that available if they need to. So the thing we're working on right this second is see daily progress towards my goal, right? So we have a project board, water, drink water, and I'm currently working on this item. As a user, I should be able to see daily progress towards my goal. I should be able to see this as a progress bar regardless of what screen I'm on. So I added that in initially. Then as I started to evolve the project a little bit, I decided that realistically what I wanted to do is make an API. So if you are interested in writing, if you're a front-end developer, we're building an API for you to tinker with. If you're a back-end developer, you can help contribute to the API. Any story should not have both elements, because then if people do contribute UI, then all the UIs are going to fall out of sync. So there is that. So last week we started talking about getting the progress. So this is what we're working on now, getting the actual progress towards that goal. And what do I do if I have no preferences? What value should I see? We kind of set that. And what is a day? We don't still use this time zone. So I think what we talked about is the whole getting the data. Getting the data for a user. So if we store all the data in UTC, when a user asks for today, what does today mean, right? So how do we do that? So we tackled that last week. That's what I was just finishing up there, making sure there's a unit test for it. We used a new feature in .NET 8 to allow us to unit test this effectively. That is the time provider class. So in .NET 8, they have a time provider, and you can create a fake time provider, which is again provided by the framework, and that allows us to kind of set the times that it's going to return. So when we're in control of all the time, then we can actually manipulate that and get back expected results without having to kind of guess. So that's what we use there. So this story isn't quite done yet, in so much as now I need to kind of track the preferences. I'm just watching my dogs. We need to track the preferences of the user, because now we have this requirement of when we ask for this data, we need to know the time zone, right, of the user. So we can default it initially to a value, and I'll probably use -5 initially. Sorry, I'm just checking on the dogs. Okay, I need to be right back. I need to go take my dogs. I'll be right back. Okay, my apologies about that. Okay, so time zone preferences. Right now, I'm just obviously I'm hard coding this. What I need to do is when we are I thought it was going to be a three quarters of an hour BRB screen. I contemplated it, but I thought that, you know, being that I actually have the equipment and stuff set up, that I probably should do the streaming part. Was a good tactic though. How you doing? Okay, so in the application concerning goals, so we have the concept of I'm still not sure how I feel about the teleprompter thing, but we'll see. It does work really well for reading the chat. It just is a bit different to get used to, yeah. So we created a method, get progress percentage. In get progress percentage, we have get logs for today, right? And we have now hard coded this piece. So our get progress percentage now doesn't take into account our preferences, even though we have our target. So get preferences view model right now has target fluid ounces. So if we make this okay. Gotta kind of consider how I do this. So our repository consumption repository. Even though, I mean, technically this should move to this preferences should move to the account, not to the consumption, but we can get to that point, right? That's kind of why we're doing this, right? The purpose of this project is not one of perfection. The purpose of this project is one of being able to reflect back, look at things, rename things, you know, use something as a reference. And actually, I think my font size reset. Is that readable on stream? All right, get rid of them. I think I installed a plugin update, and I think it reset my font. You can read it. I just want to make sure, because I think it was like more that size. I think to Rambling Geek's point, I think I can do the zoom 110%. That's probably more what it was. Zoom the ID to 110%. One second. can read it. This will be the long BRB screen. Yes. My dogs are... One's not very well, so I'm just trying to keep an eye on her. So we'll see how they behave. If they settle down, then I'll be okay. But if they don't, then I'll have to decide. Okay, my apologies for that. If they need it again, I'll just shut down. But if they settle, I should be okay. Unicus, good morning. How are you doing? Yeah, pretty much. And I'm not going cleaning that every time. So, if I can get them outside, then I'll get them outside. So, and their health and happiness matters a little bit more than my stream, I suppose. So, okay, so we need to add the time zone into this user, right? Time zone offset hours. We can default it. We can do whatever we want to do. 0 is fine for this, because if you add everything in UTC, when I say get everything in UTC, for a while you probably wouldn't notice. Eventually, we'd have to reset the data, but right now, being that we are developing, it is perfectly fine to do it this way. So now our preferences, now we've added the preference, we now need to do a migration to add that field. And I probably should set that to 0. No, it'll be 0 because it's not nullable. It'll be default to 0 anyway. Okay, so go here, Entity Framework Core, add migration. We'll call this add time zone offset hours. Apex, good morning. How you doing? Just saying the puppies are slightly off today, so if I have to run, we'll please understand that I'm looking after dogs. I'm doing okay. Okay, so we got our migration. Now we can add now we can run the migration. Update database, so that takes that migration, applies it. Okay, so now we have our preferences. Now, we don't have the UI for preferences, right? We don't have, we've added things in a very haphazard way here. And that's by design, right? That's not totally by design, but partially by building upon what we need at the time, we can reflect back on what we've done. And that way, from a beginner's perspective, it is very much, it very much resembles an actual application that someone's just kind of put together that you've got to jump into and work with. But it also allows you to understand why we're changing something, why we're moving things around, and yeah, and people can come in here and add behavior if they without too much difficulty. If we start making things overly complicated architecturally, then it's a little bit more intimidating, a little bit harder to add to. I'm just trying to see if the dog settled down. That's why I keep looking down to my left. Bit back.
Okay. Okay, this will be the last time. If anything happens now, I'll finish. One's worse than the other, so one's irritating the other, so I just separate them a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. But I don't think I'm going to get my full stream out here. Okay, so with preferences added, now if we go back to our application piece, right? So we have the consumption service, we have the get progress percentage. Now in preferences, we need to add in this repository call our actual preference. Okay, so our preferences object will now come with the time zone, and now we can add time zone offset hours. And this doesn't feel bad. I mean, again, like I said last week, if you go into a lot of apps, you are asked what time zone you're in. And that's oftentimes for this reason. You need to offset data. So if data is stored as UTC, it's more globally, you can change it. You know, everything's relative to a certain point in time. So all the data you can analyze, you can see when it was added, and you don't need to care about the user's time zone. But the user, when they look at that data, they want to get the time. They want to get the data relative to their time zone. That's fine. So we're going to add that to the view model, and then that's time zone offset hours. And I think make sure it's consistent. Yes, so the time provider. I got that passing a minute ago. So we have a test, and that is basically, so we use a time provider, we set a fake time provider, and we feed that into our consumption repository. Now, when the consumption repository asks for date time, we use the time provider to say get UTC now. So when it says add hours, right, it's using its UTC now, so we're in control of that this second. Right. And now when we add our data, we're using the time provider, get UTC now, so that we have relative time. And then we can validate, yep, we get exactly what we expect given an offset of -5. We have the right amount of time. So that is beneficial. That is there. So now if we go to our service, right, we can get our preferences. And here we can just do preferences, time zone offset hours, right? So now this part, so for endpoint, this is where it gets interesting. Where do we put this, right? Is it a get on consumption? I'm not sure. I'll type in the test. Type in the test namespace consumption concerning consumption. Oh yeah. Typo. Sorry. Thank you. Yep. Apologies. Thank you. Thank you for catching that. Namespaces. Yep. Good catch. Add migration for adding time zone offset hours to user repository to user preferences. Preferences. I forgot I did the snapshot. My apologies. use preferences time zone offset when requesting logs for today. Okay, so we had these tests. Do these pass still? They do not. Why do they not pass? Okay. Get logs for today. So get logs for today does not require preferences, I don't believe. So storing the time zone as an offset is okay, or would it be better to create it with a string name? At this point, it's okay. We only need an hours offset. The name of the time zone doesn't really bear any importance right now, but it's worth maybe understanding why we would store the name later on. Maybe that could make a difference as to when daylight savings happens. We've got a whole lot of things that this doesn't do yet, right? Such as that, where daylight savings messes with that time zone, right? Because for a time you're -4 rather than -5, or so daylight savings starts to really mess with the entire concept. But it's why UTC, storing everything as UTC, is beneficial, because then you can offset for local time differences. It's yeah. So the only difference that would be is if two areas respected time zones differently. Okay. One thing is for certain: I will never be a quick typer on a keyboard on a phone screen. So, those are sorts of things that we can definitely address later on. We can talk about, now we're storing data, now we're using the offsets. We can definitely talk about those sorts of challenges. And if someone with more experience in time zone stuff comes into the stream and says, "Oh, you're doing this wrong," we can all learn something from it, right? That's kind of why this project exists, right? So, that's a big step, to take, but it's something we can concentrate more on later on. Okay. So with that done, we need to get this to pass. So why doesn't this pass, right? So get progress percentage should, given some data, right? So we say 120 fluid ounces in our preferences. Again, we're configuring this. And when we call get time zone offset with 0, this doesn't matter at this point, right? We're controlling the data. So this time zone doesn't matter because we're setting this when this is called, right? So if we're calling this, we'll get back this, right? So we're not actually, we don't need to deal with the time zone offset in here right now, right? So we should get 12 back. So the only challenge, that's why time zone offset hours equals 0. No, that will not be the problem, because it'll default it to 0. Ambiguous arguments. Cannot determine the argument assertions. Int. No.
ambiguous, so it's not arg.is 0. Make sure that's true. There we go. Okay. It's just because I wasn't kind of giving it the specification. I guess it doesn't need to be too fine-grained. There is no plan for doing events that must run at a very specific time. Having it be off by an hour sometimes is probably not an issue. Plus, we can still make everybody live in Alaska time. We could do, yeah. Yeah, again, we have to kind of pick and choose our battles there. How much do we rely upon time, right? Realistically, we're building an application for tracking water consumption. If we're off by 12 or 13 fluid ounces because we lose it in a time zone, most people aren't going to notice. Most people are not drinking water later in the evening, or that much water later in the evening that they need to care about the tracking. Most of this is going to be during the daytime, right? So I'm not too fussed over that at this point. And again, if someone with more experience comes in with time zones, etc., and says this is actually a problem, then we can address it, right? But for right now, I think it's acceptable to store the offset. So we'll make that a preference that can be set. I drink my water exactly. Okay, so we have passing tests. Pass correct arguments in mock. Okay. Think. Need one more thing, which is an endpoint, right? So get on consumption doesn't seem to make sense. I'm looking for a moment to drink water that doesn't have coffee. So on days where I have karate, if I don't drink water, I know about it pretty quickly. If I don't drink enough water, not well enough hydrated, the signs show themselves pretty quick. And afterwards as well, the muscle ache is just not fun. So drinking water definitely reduces that muscle ache, that fatigue a lot. Okay, so we're at opinion point. So if I had, so just for reference, if I had a controller here, if I'd have put a consumption controller, then I could have put I would have put a method on my consumption controller for get goals or get progress, and that would have been my endpoint, right? That would have been the easy place to stuff this. Being that I'm now not doing that style, and we're using these endpoints, what does this mean? Well, get consumption. Being that I don't have any logs right now, maybe that's acceptable. Maybe a get endpoint in here. Pragmatically, that's probably the best place to put it right this second. Is filling your body full of liquid a good defense mechanism? Drinking too much water before karate? No, it's not a good defense mechanism. Unfortunately, when people hit you, it doesn't become like, yeah, just absorbs the kick or punch. And I have no black eye, by the way. I did not get a black eye, which is a big positive. So this is going to be, let's put it on here just for the sake of moving this forward because we have a pull request to review. Rambling Geek kindly made a PR endpoint without request. What is an endpoint without request? Right, it's just
So it's a request with no arguments. Okay. So we haven't put in any need for, oh, go get me all these logs for this day, go get me this for this day, right? We're not doing that right at a second. So we don't need to see how much water we drank last Tuesday at this point. All we need to know now is how much water have I drunk today. So every time we ask for this, we're going to do that. So we need to configure. Sorry, I'm still getting used to using fast endpoints a little bit. And this is going to be get, and this is going to be we follow an API slash. Yeah, we do. API slash. This is going to be API slash consumption. It will implicitly authorize. It will know who our user is, right? So we need to do something similar to this. I think. Okay. So do something like that. In this case, we didn't have parameters, so we don't have cancellation. We don't have that. Okay, we can return okay. Actually, we do need to return something, don't we? We do need to return something. We need to return percentage. Right? We need to return our percentage towards the goal. Okay, and then let's inject our consumption service. Right. This is going to be bar progress equals service dot get progress percentage. That's going to be our user ID. Then we want to return progress. And otherwise, bad request. Add endpoint for getting progress. And again, this is all subject to change, right? This is all subject to review. We can definitely discuss all these things and change these things up as we go. But one of the things that this does highlight is, and Rambling Geek actually did a PR, so we'll go and do the PR. Discuss that at this point because I do want to push this. I do want to push this story, and obviously I can do independent of the PR, but I want to make sure that we kind of review that without wasting time there. It would be better if we do this with Rambling Geek, but okay. So Rambling Geek did a stream on Friday. Actually checked out Drink Water and did some little you'll speak for Rambling Geek, will you? Did some testing, did some tinkering, and actually got the app up and running. Having someone go into the app for the first time who is not super comfortable with all these tools, etc., is useful because obviously they're trying. They're big, he's not a beginning developer, but in these tools he's not experienced, so he's got to feel his way through some of these things. So it was a good chance to see what someone who hadn't worked on the project or hadn't seen much of the streams was able to do. So what he's done is he's added a bit to the README so you can get started. Right. So let's have a look at this. I'll zoom in a little bit so everyone can see. So obviously I put guidelines in there, but he's added a getting started. Like, here's how you actually go and do this. So he's added Visual Studio configuration. Most people are going to be using Visual Studio. That's realistic. You can navigate there and you can create a test account, right? So he's created a sample HTTP request that creates your initial user, which is pretty cool. And then now check the Blaze debug console and navigate. So he's added these things in. That's great, right? That helps. Must be thirsty after that. Drink water, right? Nice little tip. So that's cool. That's absolutely fine. Now we hit a problem, right? This isn't ideal, but it's a common problem. So if you're a developer and you have tooling on your machine, especially tooling around development, etc., the likelihood is that tooling at some point has an opinion on how to do something, or it has to save something with your project, right? So what he's got CodeRush installed in his environment, and it's added this file, right? I'm not going to. I don't think I should reject the PR for this, but I think I should add an explicit git ignore and fix afterwards, right? Because I have the same problem, right? If I'm using Rider, mine adds a .idea folder, and this is no different, right? So that's kind of snuck in. This is the sort of thing you don't think of when you're doing it. It's the sort of thing, if you're looking at the tooling, if you're looking at the commit request, etc., then reviewing the tool, reviewing what tools you have installed, and knowing they're going to create some extra files. Well, it's added it there, and and it's not got my idea folder. I don't think. Let's have a look. I wish you could just view the gig now from within. Open in Explorer. My .idea folder is there. Normally I go and normally go to GitHub and get the git ignore from there. So author git ignore. Got CR personal. So CodeRush personal is that. Oh no, that I should ignore it. This is the git ignore. Shouldn't that be that? I mean, shouldn't that just be that? Well, I can see why personal matters, right? Because you can have shared. Yeah. So that is in the git ignore. Why is that added that in? Is the git ignore in the repo? Development branch. Git ignore. I mean, I would hope that I hadn't screwed that part up after. Oh, nice. So you can just add in all the things you want. Yeah. Well, I appreciate the double check. Thank you. But yeah, it is in there. So I don't think I should bounce this PR. I think we need to fix that and remove those files, so they can't get added back in. Right? We can amend the git
a commit with that in is not going to cost us, right? It's not like he's committed passwords or anything like that. So we just need to update the git ignore and have that done, right? So he's what did he change here? Did he delete and re-add the projects? How's he got different periods? Is this Visual Studio messing with it? Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. That's what I'm wondering. Let's go to. What do I want to do? Actually, I can open that in here. Remote. How do I? Can I do a PR pull in this tooling? What tooling have I seen recently where I can review PRs? Not in here, that's for certain. I have to pull it from his repo. But I want to make sure that's not messed with anything. But it's basically recreated the. Hold on. They're the same. It's just replaced the GUID. It's tidied this up. Inserted Visual Studio changes. It's like it re-imported the projects. Weird. That I definitely believe. Visual Studio's like, I need this information, whereas Rider doesn't need that, right? Yeah, it's in TBD Friends. And then the database. Why is the database in there? The database shouldn't be in there. The database should be ignored. Database is not in the git ignore though, is it? It wasn't wrong about that. I mean, it should be. We should definitely make it ignore it because that's the purpose of having that. Interesting. So the database doesn't matter because when you start the project up, it's going to run the migration, right? So you can not panic about that part. So I don't want the database in there. So just validates the project. Yeah. I don't know how I've managed to avoid that because I just, I commit everything. We should probably add it though. Maybe we'll make it part of this PR. Just ask Rambling Geek to add a git ignore for the DB and the CR at the same time and remove those two things. Because it's not harmful for the DB to be committed. Actually, these two files are when the DB is being run, so these are kind of interim files anyway. It's just not necessary because the migration will run and create the database when you first start the application. Which is the way that makes it easier for everyone to check out, right? So I'm going to go to a conversation and add a comment. Please could you... I don't know why. Just to restore build, I get one file change. Yeah. You have CodeRush installed as well? Yeah. Yeah, if a user puts their own personal information in there, it means they're always going to conflict as well. But it's to set multiple startup projects. Gotcha. You think it reorganizes them a bit? It's interesting that I haven't actually had to commit the DB then. Have any of my PR, have any of my code branches got... Oh. Guy. Oh, it's not in there. Interesting. Fine. So for anyone joining the stream, this is a viewer focused project. It's aimed solely at being able to tinker with things, learn new things, things like this. These are things that trip you up. That could easily get pushed through into your code base just by nonchalantly accepting a PR, not stopping and saying, no, for the good of the project, we need to change this. Right? So, so what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, can you add to the git ignore, add, update the git ignore, not to this file, there is a .cr personal exclusion for some reason added personal tooling, etc. Getting no appropriate. And you exclude this file and update again. Include it. And for some reason this is not being respected. I don't see an override for it. So this does beg the question as well. When you're working on an open source project, is this acceptable, what I'm doing here? Because I'm asking a contributor of the project to go off and fix something that the git ignore that we have is deficient upon. But we don't want to necessarily add this file in, right? Is this an acceptable behavior to ask that user to deal with? Right? We don't, because the git ignore is meant to be there to help that purpose, right? But somehow this has got through. So is this our fault, or is this the contributor's fault? Right? I think it's our fault, so it's not necessarily the right thing to do. and I'm asking this person to go off and now do more to get simple PR through than is necessary. So do I hold off on this one, right? Do I even accept the PR as is once Chris Jones comes back, and then we'll add an exclusion and delete this from the repository, right? Because then we can fix it up. We can be confident that it's done. Because Rambling Geeks changes are solid, right? The add to the README and the contribution of a sample HTTP request is perfectly acceptable, and we should probably create more of these for the other pieces, because that will also help with integration testing. So I think it's probably acceptable to accept this pull request and then go and fix those things ourselves. A version of the DB being in the repository at a point is not going to be harmful. But I think it's more pragmatic to move forward. And oftentimes that's an actual challenge. When you're working with other developers, sometimes you're accepting a pull request because it's just, you've got to get it done, or the job needs to be finished, right? So you do something out of pragmatism, but something sneaks in. And just this garbage doesn't run. What? I figured you were, but I wanted to check. But anyway, that does bring up a point, right? What I've just done is I've said, okay, I'll accept this based upon what I see. But shouldn't I make sure it actually still works? Now, being that I'm pulling from somebody else's repository, right? Maybe I want to do Rambling. Okay. Maybe I want to do that, right? And I want to clone the project. It's this tool that allows me to see PRs. Oh, does this know that I've got it as a fork? It knows that I've got the repository. No, that's Rambling Geeks version. Well, that's what I was doing. I was pulling there's the upstream stuff. This knows about PRs. Yeah, I can update. Yeah, there's the differences. Okay. Okay, so it runs. Okay, so this is Rambling Geeks version. So he made all the changes as one file. Docs. There's a README. It builds in Visual Studio, it builds in. That's really what we care about, right? No changes after filing. So
Yeah, and we'll have to get the we need the unit tests to run as well. Okay. That opens. That's interesting. That opens the browser. Okay, so that's from the geeks. This is fine. So again, I think that the problems that are introduced here are the cause of the maintainer, not the contributor, right? So it's not Rambling Geek's fault that it didn't have the git ignore working properly, so that file got added and the DB got added. Right? So I'm gonna accept this PR and I'm gonna fix this myself, right? It won't actually run. That is the issue I'm having. Okay. From the main project development branch? Or from Rambling Geeks? Okay, 1 second. Development account. Stack build. You're getting an error? I mean, Rambling Geek checked out this development branch on Friday, and this is exactly what he did. Just that the PID wasn't started. Do you think that's a setup issue, or do you think that's a just you're not getting that? Okay, so let's go back to here. So to test this endpoint, right? I'm gonna actually no. Let me finish this up first. I'm gonna accept this PR, right? I think it's perfectly fine. I think it's because you're on a higher version of .NET 8. Yes, that would make sense. You have upgraded to the actual release version. Oh yeah, I suppose you are on the release version, the day of release version, the first version that came out a week later that fixed things. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to approve this. We're going to fix those things separately because I need to do another PR right now as well, right? So this is going to get this shouldn't get too messy actually because my changes should not conflict, right? So this is going to go into development from Rambling Geek. So we're going to merge that. Right.
There's our changes. Now, I shouldn't have any merge conflicts, right? I could do a... It's fine. I could do a rebase of development just to make sure I pull the changes through, and then I can validate those changes. But there's nothing really in there. Shouldn't. Yeah, exactly. Update. Push. Well, we can see that pretty quickly by going to here, compare and pull request, development, able to merge. So it looks like it's a clean merge. My changes didn't overlap, but I haven't tested my parts yet, right? I haven't tested the API endpoint here. What I should do, why don't I get that database wanting to be added in there? That's starting to bug me now. Actually, I want to do opening terminal. Vi dot, no, not vi. City water. Oh, yeah. Can I see what? Well, no, I know that file is not committed to the repository because it's not. Get rid of afterwards. It's not in here. Oh, now it is, obviously, because we just merged it. But it wasn't in here. If I go to my branch, I just push this, right? I'm not getting asked to add that database. But I'm not getting it unless I added the git ignore in my... No, because I just looked at my git ignore, it's not in there. With a git ignore further up that might try to be... Nothing. First one here is this one. This is the checkout branch, so I did that because obviously my files were in your local machine. Where would that be on my local machine? It would ignore that. Like further up in that tree, because that would be under another repository then. That would be bad. And I don't think I have a global git ignore. Is that even a thing? There is. CD. Config. Git config. Global. No. No. I do not have. Yeah, there's no git ignore in here, right? So this would have git ignore. There'd be a git ignore file in here. If I had a git ignore at a global level. So yeah, that's not there. So I don't know why that's being excluded on my machine. But either way, let's add it to the get ignore. Right. Exclude. The problem is I'm gonna have to pull all this down, then remove it and get it from my dev folder. I shouldn't have. No. I have nothing in that path. Yeah, water. There's no get ignore in that path up until the one it hits. So the challenge here is water drink water.db. Is that going to work? I want that. Does it matter about where it is? Like that? Do I need to exclude that? Probably is because I can't see it and I can't. Have you somehow set it to assume unchanged? Not intentionally. It's not in the get ignore. What would I have done that would do that? And again, the problem is here, like, how do I, because I'm not including it. So I can't remove it from the repository and see that it gets picked up. So, right, if I do git git it's just on that thing, it's not on. It offers add. That does not. Oh, it offers add. Why would it exclude it anyway? Yeah, and you tried it in console git too. You thought somehow Rider ignored it, but the console didn't show it either. No, it's not showing me that file. So even without that there, right? If I remove that, I don't have it committed. It's not in the repository at this point. Is there a way of oh no, let's exit this one. Right. Git status. What about that? That's fine. I want it to offer me the database. Right? Then I can know that the exclude is going to do what it needs to do. Nope. Git status. Why isn't file? That's a really. It showed up for me when I ran the API project. I know that isn't helpful, but it is me. Let me go to his name. But this is something that this would create a problem because I can't see it to ignore it, so I can't fix the problem necessarily. So why am I not able to add it? Which means that I'm oblivious to the issue, right? That's a general challenge. How do I fix something that isn't technically broken? Right? Why is my machine ignoring DB files problem is that your file is already tracking. But if I do, if I go into source, water, source, API, right, and I do git rm -- cached water drink water db, do not match any files. That's not in the repository. These two files, these are intermediary files. These should definitely be showing, but they're not, and I've not committed them. Why is file not appearing? It changes, but it is not. It ignore. Okay, so we can do git check ignore -v water drink water.db. Git info exclude. What does that mean? Where's that then? What is that then? Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I don't see it. I don't have a global git ignore. But something's excluding it. That is being excluded. Right? That's what that means. Now, is that my git? Or is that local git? But it's not the git. It's not the git ignore that's doing it. It's something on my setup at line 7. Yeah, that's what it's meant to be. If I go to the git ignore, right, line 7 is not ignoring it. But this .git /info/exclude. But what is that? Is that my .git? If I open another terminal, right, there is no .git there. cd info ls -al cat exclude. There you go. It's in my git, my local git that doesn't get committed. I have it explicitly excluded. So that's interesting. You know what that is? I've gone here and said git exclude. I've seen it in here and I've right clicked in here. So it's not a global. So it is a me problem. Yeah, absolutely it is a me problem. But I've gone in here and I've right clicked and said exclude, and that's how Rider does that piece. So you can actually exclude files yourself, so you can avoid accidentally adding them, but they're not shared. So if you don't want to, so if you have intermediary files, or you have things that you do in your project that you don't want anyone else to include, and you don't want to add them into the git ignore because they're not a global problem, you could add them into the. It looks like a git feature though. It's not Rider specific. Just how Rider does that. So if I go, I don't think I want to buy that. Notepad. Right. If I remove these here, now they should appear back in here. There we go. Now I can change the git ignore. And today we learned Yes, I am. I'm going to have to finish up shortly. So now let's do water drink, water dot star. I use git extensions and you can assume unchanged, which removes it from being tracked. I don't know what the equivalent git CLI command is, but that is what I was trying to do too earlier. Gotcha. Again, we all have different paths down our git learning, I would assume. But anyway, we just learned. We learned that we can. I've not used that feature before, but we can check why something's being ignored from a repository. That will tell us, even if it's in the exclude folder, in the exclude file, that it's there, or it'll tell us what rule in the git ignore is making it exclude. So git check -ignore -v and then the file name. It will give you the info as to where it's been excluded. Also, if you want locally excluded files, you can do that. Okay, so add is it include the database in ignore file? So what we're going to have to do afterwards is we're going to have to check out rambling the now development branch, delete that from that, and then push it back up, because then it won't re-add it. And it's okay that it's in that version, in a commit history. It's not going to hurt anything. Include database in ignore file. Do not include. Yeah. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on the CR stuff afterwards as well. We'll test that. Okay, so I have. Good morning, Mr. Anholm, by the way. I don't know if I said that. Global git ignore is build.config. Yeah, there was nothing there. I checked that. So that was 100% a me problem. That was me using the tooling and me using the tooling incorrectly. Because, again, you don't know how broken things are until you try and work with others. Thank you. So we need to run the application. I have to head to work. Thanks for streaming. Hopefully the dogs are better and enjoy. They are, right now they are sleeping, so this is good. Have a great day at work. Thank you very much. Family Geek, the timing. So I also learned not to work with others. Got it. Thanks, man. Yeah, when you work alone, things go way smoother. The moment you include another person, it gets difficult. So we did just learn that I had excluded the database, so I was never going to be able to commit that, which is good. I learned not to use rider. Whoa. That was a Git feature. That was not a rider specific feature. Rider's just leaning on something. Nothing wrong with my rider. Visual Studio messed with all the GUIDs, so yeah, and it had to tell itself what version it needs to be on. Yeah, it was my problem. Yeah. Watching from what? No worries. Okay, so we merged your branch into development. We do have some changes to make because it highlighted the fact that the database was added. But my branch is still kind of just in the midst of testing. So we log. This should fail actually. Yeah, because this is unauthorized. So we still have an issue with the application holding on to the session, the token. So it thinks it's authenticated, but it's not authenticated. It's not valid anymore, right? The local storage token. Yeah, we just did that. But what had happened is I actually had excluded the file early on, and that doesn't add it to the git ignore. It adds it to my exclusions. So I never saw the database. So I never got to check the database in. But the moment you went to check it in, you had the database, so you checked it in. So rather than reject your pull request, we accepted it, and now we'll come back around it.
test@test.com. All good, not your fault. Okay, so we have Bob. Okay, so 15 fluid analysis. Let's set our target of 128. That should go through. Yep. Let's set 12. Yep. Now we should be able to open this. No, so what it worked as, Rambling Geek, is it actually worked as a good demonstration of what happens when other people are working in the project and sort of the challenges that can hit you when you do a PR. And was it on you to fix that, or was it on me as the project maintainer to fix that? And it really, that lies on me. That should have been in a git ignore from the start. On the database one, there is one that it added. You added a code rush file, but that is in the git ignore, but somehow that got through, so we're going to look at that as well. But you know, it's all part of it, right? It's all part of the process. So if we go over here, headers, authorization, we got our bearer token. Go over here. Yeah, there we go. There's our time zone. Whereas I guess if I would have noticed, then I could have done it and made a note of it in the PR. Yeah, but it's just the process, right? We were focused on something different, so that's perfectly fine. So now we can go and get, let's go here, bearer token, paste that in. So we're going to go to this endpoint and we're going to get consumption. So this should give us a percentage back. 9. There we go, and 9% of our daily target, because I had logged 12 out of 128, so we're 9%. So our API endpoint's working, calculation's working. There we go. Just to be thorough there, let's just go and log some more and verify that number changes. I'm sadly one of those developers that once I have confidence that things are working, I'm less likely to just keep testing just for the sake of it, and more I'm like, okay, that gives me the number I expect, I'm good. Some people spend a lot more time testing things, but again, because I've got the unit tests, because I've got everything else backing me up, I'm like, okay. Percentage progress 21%. So 27 of 128 is ouch. Okay. There we go. So we have this endpoint. So now let's go and push that change. Push. Let's make that PR. Now this should merge cleanly, and then what I'll do is I'll pull development and I'll make the change directly in development rather than messing around, because then if anyone else does a PR, they're going to benefit from these changes. Let's go here. Parent pull request. Now, no one else is assigned to this project other than me. So I'm the only one that can maintain this piece. As time goes by, if we continue building this the way that I would like to, then likelihood is that I'll add other people as reviewers so that I won't just do a PR blindly, right? Because I have that ability. I can mess the entire project up pretty quickly. Right? Let's do a PR request. A PR request. A pull request. Okay, so there's a lot changed in this PR. We added an exclusion. Yep, that's good. We added 2 new projects. We added a view models project for passing the data back and forth, and we added the data.tests to test the time zone stuff. In terms of the get, this is a simple, we pull the user ID. Again, we'll probably make an extension method out of this. Again, I'm not focused on doing those sorts of things because I think those are the sorts of things that would be good for a beginner or someone that's not so confident working with the APIs to go in, make that change, and understand the impact of here's writing an extension method or whatever, right? It's a good learning point that's not too deep, but is easily accessible. So we go and get the progress percentage. We return the progress percentage. That's good. If we don't have a user, this will return a bad request. Yep. Our preferences, we change the get. We introduce this endpoint for the get to return the model. Good. 2666, welcome. Hope you're well. UK Dev, welcome. Hope you're well. If anybody has any questions about what I'm doing, if you are interested in what I'm doing at all, you're more than welcome to ask. I normally stream Monday and Tuesday, 7 till 9. I am about to finish shortly. On Water Drink Water, this is a viewer-friendly project. The code is all available. More than welcome to go and check it out and have a look. It's not aimed at being the best Eastern. My accent might not tell it, but I am on the east coast of the US. So generally I stream 7 till 9 Eastern, Monday to Friday. On Monday and Tuesday I do this project. I thought you were in North England. Originally, yes, I am. And then I stream a larger project, a more involved project on Wednesday through Friday. Thank you for the follow, BK. There is Discord if you're interested in following up on this after stream or any other chat about software development in general. Yeah, this project is not aimed at being here's a really good example of software development. This project is aimed at here's a goal. Let's add stuff a little ad hoc, do things a little quicker, get things moving along, talk about some of the pieces, and really, if you're new to development, etc., absolutely, that's perfectly fine. I understand that. Discord is noise. So this project is very much aimed at, if you're new to programming and you want to get into doing a project, or you're new to Git and you want to practice doing PRs, etc., you're more than welcome to kind of pick up one of the issues on this project and try and fix it. If you're new to .NET, there's a lot of things we're building in here that will be a bit more advanced, but there's a lot of things in here that are pretty simple and day-to-day stuff if you're building websites. If you want to do UI stuff, if you want to put a new UI on this, we're providing an API that is usable, that people understand, that people can talk about, and you can put a UI on top of it. So there's that option. So it's very much aimed at being a general project that is not perfect. It's not looking for people to come along and say, hey, I know how to do this, I'll just implement all this functionality. It's not aimed at that. It's aimed at kind of just keep on slowly picking along at features and talking about some of the challenges we might have. So this last feature seemed pretty simple until we got into the concept of what is today. Because today changes based upon where you are, right? So if you're logging your water consumption, we say, get me my water consumption for today, well, what does today mean? So we introduce the concept of understanding the user's time zone, so that we store all the logs as UTC, and then we offset to get what is today. Is it perfect? No. Will it work for this project? Absolutely. And then we kind of get the percentage. So we have a basic layout of the application. We do the migrations so that everyone can check out the project and just run it is the goal. We have there's our migration stuff. There's our changes to the tables. There's our repository changing. There's our introduction of the view models. There's our view model changing. Project. And our unit tests. So we did add unit tests in this particular case because there's a little bit of rules that were kind of a bit messy. So just to help clarify those things, and these become a discussion point. So unit testing is not something that is required to contribute to the project. It is something that I am doing just to make sure that some of the pieces that I am covering are definitely tested and we can validate the behavior. And especially with the time zone stuff, that's important. it's good to understand if it breaks. Okay, so, and there's times on offset hours. I don't get to say accept changes on my own PR, but I'm going to merge this because I do have to finish up. It's 9:10. Delete that branch, make sure it's not messy. That closes that PR, that closes that issue that was out there as well. Okay, so Rambling Geeks changes are in there. We have getting started. I go enjoy your PHP. Really? So Rambling Geek kindly created a test. This because when you start the project for the first time, there's no account. So yeah, create a test account. So I should be able to go over here now. Go to here. Check out this branch. And now I can pull. I should have all the changes. Untracked files, prevent merge. Okay, all the changes should be there now. Yep. Okay, so now I need to remove them from the repository. This is again something I don't often do. Remove, yes, git rm cached, right? So we did this before. CD water source API ls and then git rm -- cached water drink water.db. Okay. Changes to be committed, deleted. So again, I don't care that they're in the history, as long as they're now removed from the project, so that when you check out the project, you don't get those files. That's okay. Removed water, drink water. There is a way. There is a way of purging them from the actual logs, if memory serves. Because if you commit a file with a password or you commit a sensitive file, you don't want that left in the history. Even if you remove it now, it's still in all that history. There is a way of purging things from the history, but I don't think I need to go through that pain right this second. Delete and recreate. No, there's a way of purging fully from your actual Git repository, like it was never there. I'm pretty certain, but it's involved, if memory serves. That's just easy though, yeah. The repository starts today. I have seen that approach as well. So we have one more thing we need to remove. ls, where is it? cd.dart, ls. So .cr. So this got added. Git rm -- actually we need to do cd.dart git rm -- cached personal without the recursive --r. Okay, git status. Okay, so it wants to add it. No, it's deleted it, right? Yeah. Remove code rushed. Code rush, not code rushed. So again, it comes down to if when you go and when you're using, just flattening the whole repo into when you're using a an IDE, using tooling, etc., right? You are often personalizing that thing, right? So those sorts of things can creep in. Why didn't that push? Why did that not accept it as a change? Why did I not push it? I didn't push it. Push. Let's see if these remove now. Oh, you're still there. The database should be gone though. Yeah, the database is gone. Okay, I'll worry about the code rush file later, but I've got to finish up. So, even though a bit of a rocky start to the stream today, we did get the preferences, the progress endpoint in there. So now there is a need to do more in terms of preferences. So now we need the preferences screen to update. And these are things that if you are looking at the project and you think, hey, this needs to be done, you know, look at the issues and maybe add an issue and see if other people agree. And you're more than welcome to go off and fork the repository and tinker with this stuff, right? So the preferences screen right now doesn't load, right? So it doesn't load my target in, but it also doesn't load in now my time zone. So we need to do time zone. Maybe we need them as different PRs, maybe whatever. But now the preferences process is kind of not working. Also, from the endpoint's perspective, the preferences right now only accepts fluid ounces. So we now need to do the time zone in there as well. Right? Maybe time zones is a drop down, whatever. The progress, now there's no, we don't see the progress, but we should see it somewhere on the screen. My thought was kind of up here or on here, just kind of show a percentage or show something. I think Junicus, you actually had a really good image. It would be pretty cool to see if we could use that. But we do know that now it will return a percentage of your daily consumption, rounded, nice and neat. So yeah, there's a few more things to do. There's a lot more things to do. A lot of little bits and pieces. Again, if you're interested, you're more than welcome to check out the repository. Have a look around, see what you feel. And if you have any questions, the Discord is there. Or the repository if you want to add comments or add ideas. There is a board. This board is here. This is done. Move that across. Interesting that doing the PR and accepting the PR doesn't finish that as well, but so yeah, there's other items that can be done, right? Yeah, that is where we stand. Well, I'm going to finish up here. Thank you very much for the follows today. Thank you very much for hanging out. I appreciate it. If you're interested in doing more, if you're interested in this, I will be back again tomorrow from 7 to 9 Eastern. So that's midday to 2 p.m. in the UK, right? And yeah, see what else we can do tomorrow. To make progress. So if no one else picks anything up, then I'll or has any issues, then tomorrow I'll pick up whatever's logically next and go from there. But right now we do need to raid out quickly because I do have to finish up. I have to get to work, and I have 2 dogs that need to fight again. Anyone that I haven't raided before. Challenging. So, Captain Coda doing? Captain Coda is working on his chess game thing again. I was looking into a lot of the animations, but yeah, that thing I showed is just an SVG with setting height for percentage. Yeah. It looked pretty cool. I like the idea. I certainly like the idea. So maybe we can tinker with that at some point, or tinker with something like that. Because graphically, the project doesn't need to be advanced right now. There's definitely a lot more to do in the project. So I'm not too, again, layout, design, all these things are things we're going to talk about from a code perspective, from a UI perspective. Because from my, again, if you want to do this, if you want to develop a UI for this application in React, or you want to develop an application, a UI for this in another framework entirely, Blazor or Maui or whatever, you're more than welcome to create a version and do a PR, and we can compare and contrast. Again, we review the PRs on stream. That's kind of the point. I'm going to keep moving forward, because if I just sit there waiting for anyone to give feedback, sometimes that can be a very lonely existence. But yeah, it's something we can definitely work on. Okay, so I'm going to raid the Captain Coder. If you are saying hello, please give my apologies, because I need to raid and run. And I will we'll see you all again tomorrow, I hope. Thank you very much for the time. Yeah, take care. Have a great rest of your day.